People who get killed by cars outnumber those who are murdered. In Hawaii by a ratio of 3-1. People who die on roads outnumber gun deaths in Hawaii by a ratio of 2-1. And those who die on the road are outnumber those who are murdered by guns by a ratio of 8-1. But even with these statistics in mind, I didn't care about this issue until it became very personal. In March 2013, my sister, Emilia Hong, died at age 24 trying to cross the street, not far from where I live now, not far from this computer desk that I'm recording from that we used to share. Even as no one in my family ever learned to drive a car. Growing up so poor, no one in my household could afford one. When I began my advocacy, I found a natural ally in Hawaii Bicycling League. They have done outstanding advocacy, whether it's passing laws, building new infrastructure, or getting funding for projects. My hope is to emulate this success by starting my own non-profit organization focused on walking, which is my walking action plan.
If they were getting off the bus at this bus stop, and we traveled down to where the doctor's offices and dentist's offices are, which is across the street, they would have somewhat of a problem. The sidewalks only begin and end in certain areas. There is a crosswalk where the stoplights are. As we get closer to it, I see that we would have a problem if they were going to a dentist or doctor's office. The problem is, this is where they're going to go. With all these cars passing by, they would have to go ahead and be out in the street to go ahead and go down the hill to whatever doctor or dentist they're visiting. And it goes the other way as well. So they're essentially stuck.
We haven't invested in the public infrastructure that would support greater usage and easier access to the parks within our city boundaries. What I want us to build are linkages between parks and neighborhoods, and those would be on and off-road trails and paths that safely connect residents to their natural environment and to each other.
We're talking about walking and biking and creating activity-friendly routes to everyday destinations. Work, church, school, the grocery store, and so forth. And we want to create those routes so that people can either walk or bike to get to those locations. Many of them don't own a car, so walking and biking and public transportation are their primary forms. So what we want to do is create that essential infrastructure so that they can do so more easily, more often, and more safer. One of the ways we're looking to do this is through Tide to Town, the 30+ mile biking and walking trail. It's a network that'll basically encircle all of Savannah and eventually branch out to the surrounding cities within our county. We want every neighborhood, specifically communities that for so long have not had the type of essential infrastructure provided to them, to be able to use this trail network. We believe that Tide to Town really has a ton of momentum. So what I feel that our focus should be now, specifically with my walking action plan and with the REACH grant, is to basically prepare our communities for this type of infrastructure. We know, just based off examples across the country, that sometimes when you bring in this type of infrastructure or these linear park trails, that displacement can occur and the negative effects of gentrification. We want to avoid that, and we feel like it's important for us to work with our communities to protect them from that.
I'm focusing on communication with the city, and I'm creating a guidebook that shows and teaches and builds capacity around how to engage in a project, how a project is chosen, how it's funded, and then what is the process in which a project is completed. These are questions that I find that advocates often want to know, but don't often know how to get those answers or don't know the processes. And so it creates confusion and anger sometimes when projects get delayed or things don't happen when they were supposed to, or they lost funding. I'm hoping by being able to answer these questions, advocates will kind of come to the table and can ask the hard questions so that they know and can be engaged when they need to be when it comes to projects that they're concerned on as far as pedestrian safety and active transportation in general.
I'm trying to fix my neighborhood up. You know, they say charity begins at home. So why not start here?
And so supporting a plan that gets more people moving by foot or bicycle in order to improve our community's public and economic health.
So it'll be a long process over a lot of months and years before we finally, I think, get the results that we're looking for. But I'm confident. The communities here are great. They're super involved. The city council and the local government here is deeply involved and invested in doing what's right. So I really do think that this could be a great thing, and that's where I'm at with my Walk in Action plan. So I'd love to hear more feedback and talk to more people about my plan and see where it takes us.
This guidebook that we're creating, or that I'm creating for Health by Design, will ultimately be used in our Walk Champion program, where we work with community members in the 16 high crash zones in Indianapolis. So we're really excited about that, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of the Walking College.
This is only one part of my action plan in terms of my neighborhood. As you can see, they solve part of the problem, but there is a problem. It's an ongoing challenge to try to do what we can to fix this.
Vision Zero, whose goal is to have zero road deaths, often begins the question asking how many traffic deaths are acceptable to you, and people answer with an arbitrary number. Then Vision Zero asks, how many members of your immediate family are you okay with being killed by a car? And everyone always answers 0. I will begin the nonprofit in December when I complete my master's in urban and regional planning, hoping it is the beginning of a longer-term movement. In the hopes that fewer families are torn apart, in the hope that eventually what happened to my sister, my family, never happens to anyone ever again.